All right, so one past the hour now. Let's kick off the presentation. So thanks for joining, everybody. My name's Dion Borg. I'm the General Manager for CCLAS based in the Datamine office in Brisbane. And today I'm just going to be presenting our new mobile app for CCLAS EL. All right, let's get started. Okay, so a little bit about myself. There's a dorky photo of me from Year 12 chemistry. So always been interested in chemistry, and I went to university, got a chemistry degree. I think my only claim to fame, from a chemistry perspective, is that titration competition, which is what I'm doing there. I was 10th best in Australia, so that's about as good as I could get chemistry-wise. But went on, obviously, to study chemistry at university and work in a nickel refinery up in Townsville in North Queensland, and worked in that laboratory for about 9 years. 6 years of that time, I was the LIMS administrator for CCLAS, so used to using CCLAS in a real-world laboratory environment. So as the general manager of the product, I looked after the product globally, sales, support. I still go on site to visit our customers. In fact, I've just come back from PNG visiting one of our customers up there. This photo here is when we went over to Madrid to visit the SGS teams. They've got a multi-lab laboratory, very impressive facility. So it was interesting to get a tour through there and see how the SGS team are using CCLAS. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, if you're not already, please go ahead and connect with me. Rebecca will place the link to that in the chat. All right, so some of the challenges that we've heard our customers facing kind of in the realms of sample tracking in a mine site normally start actually at field sampling. So most companies are using paper sampling sheet to record field notes and other observations, and sample IDs are generally written on the bag directly. Paper-based records for field notes, they can be easily lost or damaged. Handwritten sample IDs can sometimes be hard to read or mislabel, which obviously affects the sample integrity. And this, there's also issues where samples are actually misplaced and not delivered to the laboratory at all. Obviously, a disadvantage to this manual process. So obviously, another downside to this approach is, when you're copying the field notes to an electronic system, there's a manual transcription, a possibility of manual transcription error. There's one study that we found that 8.8% rate of error when you're manually entering data. So that's over 8 results per 100 pieces of data that could be actually incorrect. And I'm sure this would be of concern to any company's quality process. There's also a delay in transferring this, handwritten information to other systems. It's time consuming and you're doubling up because you've already written it down in the field and you've got to type it back into another system. And there was also limited traceability about, who took the samples and what was the date and time of those samples. Once the samples have actually arrived to the laboratory, there's generally a lot of them, right? So it's easy to get samples mixed up with different batches. The workflow is complicated to manage, as because after the samples are actually received from the field, for all samples, as an example, you generally weigh them, dry them, crush them, split them, pulverize, and then put them into the sample bag. So it's easy to lose track of what stage a sample job is at for the sample preparation process. Now, obviously, turnaround time is from sample preparation process is important because any delays and bottlenecks or backlogs cause a delay in the sample analysis. Now, sometimes sample preparation staff don't know the correct procedures for each type of samples. For example, a person might crush the sample prior to doing a sizing, which is not ideal, right? So, keeping a track of, the right processes is a challenge for each sample. Some laboratories have hazardous materials and hazardous materials inside their samples. So, the sample preparation staff need to be able to handle them differently, have the right or correct PPE, so you don't expose that staff to that hazardous material. Now, laboratory managers, they don't have that real-time visibility into the status of the sample preparation, which can affect decision making for workflow management. And because a lot of the sample preparation process is manual, there's a lack of those detailed audit trails, capturing what manual process was done at what time. And then you've got, without this detailed sample tracking, resources actually need to manage and track those samples in this sample preparation process, whereas those staff could be used elsewhere in the laboratory. And paper records obviously are commonly used in sample prep and often used to track the status and preparation. Again, they can be lost or damaged. Once sample preparation is finished, then the samples are then moved into the analytical laboratory, where the samples are generally batched, weighed, digested up to be read onto instruments. So, maximizing instrument utilization can be challenging when there's a large number of samples and limited instrument availability. So it's important to record samples that are being analyzed on the correct instrument, and also instrument utilization is difficult to record, and obviously this affects the turnaround time for your samples, managing your instrument utilization. So, challenges wise, obviously similar to sample preparation, laboratory managers don't have the real-time visibility into the status of samples on instruments, which can affect decision making for improving instrument utilization. All right, so Datamine's new Android mobile app for CCLAS can help resolve some of these challenges that you face in your mine site laboratory. So I think the biggest impact for this product is the tracking of samples that are taken in the field. The app automatically records who takes the sample and at what date and time. And now, given mine sites are generally in remote locations with poor or no phone reception, the offline capability allows users to store information actually on the phone, and even though they have no mobile reception. So once the users get back into mobile reception or Wi-Fi reception, then they can transmit that stored data back to CCLAS. Having the ability to scan QR barcodes for samples improves the sample integrity, making sure the correct sample is put into the right bag. If we think about process plant samples, you could use a QR code on a tank, say, and making sure that field staff are actually taking the correct sample at the right location. we've also got that ability to define different sample details in CCLAS EL. So the mobile app can store as much detail as you like, giving you more visibility on how your samples are progressing in sample preparation and instrument assay, ultimately helping you improve your, sample turnaround times and obviously sample integrity. From a security perspective, Datamine's new app has undergone extensive penetration testing to ensure there is no security issues with the platform. The third-party security team that we employed to do this used multiple industry-recognised methodologies, including OWASP, for their testing. On the server side, we are using Azure AD B2C for authentication and authorizations for users, and we are using HTTPS, and this ensures secure communication between the app and the server. Okay, so I'm just going to move into the live demo now. So what I've got is actually a emulator emulating the application, and I'm going to run through some processes with you, and just bear with me while I just end that slide screen. Okay, so the first thing, so this is the app itself. When you first set up the app, you've got to define where the CCLAS server is. So you don't do this every time. It's the very first time you set up the app. So I'm just going to show you that process. I'm just going to bring up the server name and type that in. Once you type that in, it then connects to the CCLAS server. So once you've got a connection, then the next step is to actually go ahead and register yourself as a user on that particular server. And you can see here it is connecting to our Azure AD environment to making sure that I'm authorized. So I need to log in. Make sure I spell my email address correct. And I'll just move it off the screen while I pipe in my password there. Just bear with me. Okay, so it's signing in now. And so that's now signed me into the Azure ID, and it's verified that I am a user on that server. So then I'm going to set up my account here, and this is the local account on the mobile device. I'm just going to call it DB Demo, and I set up a 6-digit PIN code. And then a security question: if you forget your PIN code, you can reset it. And my favorite car's a Lamborghini. Okay, so once that's set up, I've now created a user on this mobile app. Also, we do have the ability for a different language. So we've got English and Spanish. So the whole interface is updated in Spanish now. Obviously, my Spanish isn't that good, so I'm going to flick back to English for the rest of the demonstration. Okay, the other thing that is important to set up is the number of days that the data is stored. So depending on, field staff are out for a long period of time, obviously you would want to make these number of days a little bit longer, but the default is 3 days. So essentially it only stores up to 3 days worth of data and then deletes that data eventually because you don't want to fill up your mobile app with data forever. Okay, so once that is set up, then the next step is to log in to the mobile app. So now that we've created a user, I'm going to log in as myself, the same user, and put in my PIN. Make sure I got the right PIN. And okay, so it's now logged me into the mobile app. Okay, so one of the things that you do have is the ability to synchronize your configuration. So by clicking on this synchronize configuration, I'm synchronizing all of the data required that's actually set up in CCLAS EL. So that's important because if there's any changes, you need to sync it up, especially if you've been out in the field. All right, so the next thing I'm going to show you is the actual tracking of the samples. So because this emulator doesn't have a camera functionality attached to it, I'm just going to show you a short video that I've recorded. So I'm going to present the presentation again, and you'll see now here that similar menu. So I'm clicking on the track samples, and I'm going to select that, hey, I'm going to do some sampling here, and I'm going to collect the sample. So once I click on start sample, then I say, okay, this is the sample packet I'm going to use, and I'm capturing here to say I'm capturing 6 grams of sample, right? And that then captures that particular sample. Okay, so then in the next step, we've recorded the sample details. So then on the next step, after you've recorded all your sample details, you might do that multiple times. Then you've actually got to transmit that data back to CCLAS. So I've recorded that video as well. So you can see there, I'm selecting 2 samples that I've scanned, going to transmit that data, and it will then update that. And once that data is transmitted, it'll say, yes, data transmitted. And you can see on the right-hand side, it changes the data from unsent to sent. And on that little attributes column, you can actually see the data that you're sending as well. Okay, so so that's the end of our the demo. So moving on to the actual value that this product can be for your particular business or laboratory. So for those of you that are on the webinar that are CCLAS EL customers, the mobile app is included as part of your yearly maintenance, so there's no extra licensing costs for it. And obviously the mobile app platform allows you to better track your samples from field, through sample prep, through the laboratory and onto storage if you wish to do that. You don't have to do that whole process. It's really where you see the best use case for this product for you and your laboratory. CCLAS obviously does require some setup to interface to the mobile app, so a project would be required to assist in this setup. So our consultants are happy to help you with that should you wish to move further. And the other thing that is also required is you've got to host the web server to communicate with CCLAS. So Datamine can host that for you, or your IT team can host that themselves.